Hi there, this is Julie with PhotoFabPaperFlowers, and thank you for watching. This video will instruct you how to create a paper flower tulip using the Tulip Mini Flower Bundle. So it comes with two templates, the traditional tulip and a fringed tulip, which I have a separate tutorial and it's linked in the instruction document you receive when you purchase the template in my Etsy shop. So you'll download the respective zip file for the SVG file or PNG. You're going to upload it to you, unzip the file, and then upload the files to your machine's design space. I like to add the master files and label them, and then I insert a line below it, and then I add the tutorial date or the date the template was released, and then I set up each project. And in between each, the traditional tulip, I'll do a line, and then I'll do the fringe tulip below it, and then I'll add another line because in case we make any other flowers with this template, you'll have that all in one project within your machine's design space. All that is outlined in your instruction document as well. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Again, all the sizes are included when you purchase the template. Okay, so for the first thing, you can optionally ink your sepal and your two leaves. I like to use brown on my leaves. So you can use walnut stain or ground espresso. They're very similar. I flip-flop back and forth and sometimes mix it together. So I'm going to use the larger applicator. And in a circular motion, I'm just going to ink my sepal. And then I'm going to go over my leaves just to give them a little bit of a dirty look, or almost like to mimic soil. And then we can remove these from our Cricut mat or my mat, your machine's cutting mat. Okay, we're just going to put this away. Okay, so we're going to grab a piece of scrap paper, copy paper, whatever you have. And now we're just going to do the opposite sides of each. Just so I like to ink both sides, especially because the leaf will be, you'll see both sides. So again, I just brush on some ink. I like to leave it on the mat to ink the front side because it's much easier. Okay, and then we're just going to ink. And if you want to make sure the edges, you can just go over the edges. Now you can use a finger dabber. It's just when they're larger, you can get more coverage with the applicators. Okay, now we're going to bring in our flower shaping mat, which is a 1/4 inch thick mat. And if you do need any paper flower tools, I do offer them in my Etsy shop. So now we're just going to create some veining. So the first thing you can do with your sepal is just vertical, just draw some lines. And it's going to lift each of the petals. Okay. So we're just going to go right around the edge. Sorry. I had a lot of carbs, and at the time of this filming, it is Easter 2025. So I had some chocolate. circular motion right where the petals meet the base, and it lifts them up in the air. Then use your piercing scoring tool. So this is from Dollar Tree, as well as the Embossing Stylus. There's 2 sizes that come in this pack. I use the thicker one always because it fits 18 gauge floral stem wire easily. With the petals lifted, you're just going to pierce a hole right in the center or poke it. And you can set that to the side. Now for your leaves, we're just going to follow the shape around the left side. And then I'm just going to draw vertical lines to add veining to our leaf, because leaves are generally not flat. So it gives it a nice texture. Do the same thing with your second leaf. Oh my God, I'm dropping them everywhere. Draw your vertical lines. Again, it's giving your leaves some texture. Okay, then I like to go over them with our metal ball stylus. So they come in a set of 4, and there's a different diameter metal ball at each end. This is the second to smallest. You can use the larger ones, and then I just go over the lines to really shape those leaves. So you can see it's curled. Looks like a banana boat. Okay, again, draw your lines. Now for my leaves, I like to squeeze the top to give it some shape. You can take your blue 3/16 inch dowel rod if you like, and you can just curl around the base. And you can actually use the purple 1/8. If you wanted to make it even smaller, because it's going to wrap around 18 gauge floral stem wire. Not necessary. I did pinch mine mostly, but again, pinch your top. And then if you wanted to, with your red 5/16, you can curl them a little bit, just so they're a little bit more shape. And then you're going to set those to the side. Okay, so now we have, I had to look up the parts of the flower. We have the pistil, which is our yellow, and our black, which is our stamen. So I'm going to bring in our piece of scrap paper. Okay. Now for the yellow, the stamen, we're going to use a black marker. I like to use the fine, ultra fine point Sharpie. I buy them in a large pack. I'm going to color in the oval circle center. And then closer to the bottom, I'm just going to draw a horizontal line across. It's like a zebra stripe. Flip it over, and we don't need to do the center, but you can go right over where you did your black lines. It has bled through, so you'll be able to see exactly where to color them. And then I'm going to go over mine with some walnut stain. So I'm going to use the finger dabber this time. You can use ground espresso as well. They're super duper close. So just brush it on, and you're going to add that on both sides. Of course, inking is totally optional. So if you don't want to invest or don't want to ink, depending on your project, that's perfectly okay. It's going to just add a little bit of, we'll say, dirt. Flip it over. And now we're going to go over the front side. Pollen dust. How about that? Should be green then, right? Okay. And we can set aside our piece of paper again. And we're going to use our embossing stylus. So I'm going to use the second to largest end. And on each of the tips of the pistil and the stamen, the very tip, you're going to go in a circular motion. So with the black center facing up. Just circle motion, and it's going to basically turn it into a spoon where it'll have that little bit of a shape, like a teaspoon. Then just bend them up right at the center. Okay. Oops. And we're going to set that there. We're going to do exactly the same thing. Circular motion on the tips of the stamen. In my French tulip tutorial, I didn't know the parts of the flower. I know I'm a paper florist. That's shame on me. Okay, so you can see again, they have a little bit of shape. Okay, then you're going to fold them up. And then we're going to pierce a hole in the center. And we're going to prepare our stem. Okay, so I'm going to take a piece of 18 gauge floral stem wire. And I'm going to cut off a little bit of my wire. We're going to take our needle nose pliers, place your 18 gauge floral stem wire in between the needle nose pliers, bend it around like a hook. I try and keep it small. Close the loop or hook, straighten it out a bit, and then you're going to place it back in between the needle nose pliers and bend it 90 degrees like a corner. Now we can add a little bit of black just because we will see it. Now you can use a thicker marker, which would probably be smarter. Just in case it does show. The other ones I didn't always do this, but it's a good thing to do if you have one handy. Okay. Now we're going to thread that onto our stamen, or thread our stamen onto the wire. Oh my goodness. On the underside of the wire loop, you're going to add some glue. That's why you want to try and keep your wire loop as small as possible. thread it through and let it grab. So it's not as noticeable since I colored it. Okay. Now we can add glue to the bottom of the pistil. And then we're going to attach it in the center. That is the hardest part for me. And then you can use your embossing stylus to make sure it's attached. And I attach it to the top of the wire. So now we have our center of our tulip created. You can set that to the side. And now it's time to color our petals. So how you want to color them is completely up to you. And it depends on the color of the paper you're going to use. So originally I used yellow paper and added some, my favorite color, picked raspberry. So now I'm choosing to do orange and I'm going to use lumberjack plaid. Okay. Now lumberjack plaid is a really bright or saturated color, so it will get on your fingers. So I am going to add some gloves here, just for the initial inking. I'm going to continue to use my same finger dabber. Circular motion in the center, and then you're going to blend out. Okay. Okay, I am using a pretty heavy hand. So take a look at some photos of tulips to decide, you know, what colors you want to use, or if you even want to ink at all. Circular motion, and then blend out each petal. Okay. Hopefully I'm not off camera. Again, inking is totally optional, so if you don't want to ink your tulips, that's certainly fine. This is layer 1, our very center, so the petal shape is a little bit different. Circular motion. Blend out. Okay, then we're going to remove it from our mat. Now I'm using a newer mat. So it's super sticky. So again, this shape is a little bit different, so that is layer 1. Okay. I'm just going to put my mat away. And we're going to bring back our piece of scratch paper and continue that process. So we're going to flip it over, circular motion, and blend out. This lumberjack plaid also looks beautiful on pink paper, and I've done that before. So you can always test in the corner to see what the ink will look like on that color paper. So this is 65-pound cardstock by Recollections from Michaels. Okay, so now we can just go up around the edges a little to really highlight the shape. So I'm just going to go down and across the top. And then we can come down the opposite side. Okay, flip it over and do exactly that same thing. And then come down the right side. So making the fringe tulip and the traditional tulip are quite similar. Okay, again, we're going to flip it over, do our inking in the center, and then blend out. I go pretty far up the length of the petal, so it's completely up to you how far. Close to the top. Again, look at some photos online to determine your shading. Oops. That one I almost ripped off. Don't worry, you can glue it. I glued some in my samples. Okay. And then again, you can do the technique where we go down the one side and across the top on all 4 petals. I like to highlight again, especially at the top. I'm gonna have a little bit of color. And then come down from the center towards the tip on all 4 petals. And I don't think I did it on the opposite side. One. And then again, that same technique. Down the right side from the center out. And then our very center, flip it over. Blend circular motion in the center. And then blend out. This one's going to be our very center of our flower, or tulip. Okay. And again, we're going to go across the top and down the right side. And now we come from the center towards the tip. Flip it over and we do exactly the same thing. And now we come down from the center towards the tip. Okay, now this is our very center. So I choose, when I was looking at tulips for inspiration, I did see a lot of them had some dark in the center, plus we have our stamen, which is black. So I'm going to add some black soot. Again, I'm using the same one. So our layer 1 is the thinner petals. So circular motion in the center, and then just blend out a little bit from the base. And this will only be on one side. So you can see what it looks like. And that's the very center. Okay. So layer 1, we're just going to flip it over. Layer 2 is exactly the way it is. And then layer 3 on the opposite side, we're going to add a little bit of forest moss, our green color. Circular motion, just like we did with the black, because this is where our sepal's attaching. And then blend it out just a little bit. And I'm just adding a little bit of green to the edge there. I find inking super relaxing, so and that is layer 3. Right. Now we are ready to style them. So we're going to bring back our flower shaping mat, our metal ball stylus tool. So we're going to, starting around the edge here, we're just going to go back and forth vertically and to shape our petal. Remember, layer 1, the black is on the inside, the interior. So just go back and forth vertically, up and down, around the edge to really shape our petals. I do recommend stretching before you do this part because it is a little hard on your shoulders. Then you can take your piercing scoring tool and just poke a hole right in the center. And that is layer 1. Okay. Layer 2, again, the same color. Vertical lines, coloring just back and forth to really shape our petal. And it lifts it right up. Okay. Back and forth. It is hard on the arms again. My arms are tired. Shape around. You can see the shape of the tulip. So beautiful. Oh, we need to poke our hole or pierce our hole. If it's not exactly in the center, don't stress, friends. Layer 3, the green is on the bottom. So back and forth. I make sure I go around the edges to lift those petals up. So it's a nice ombre effect. Well, especially with this color. Now, if you were using like white and you use some violet or purple coloring, it would be much noticeable, contrasting. So vertical, back and forth, color your lines, and then just go around the edge and really shape it, and then I just go back and forth again. Okay, and again, a little bit of green hint is on the third layer. Okay, now we can assemble our flower. So we're going to bring back our floral stem wire. Now we can use a smaller metal ball stylus right in the center to really lift those petals up. So remember, layer 1, we have the black on the inside. Thread your wire through. We're going to add glue to the bottom around that bottom center. So you can hold your glue gun and twirl. Okay, thread it through, and we want it to catch. So we're going to press from the bottom to make sure it attached to our stamen. Okay. Now to keep them vertical, we're going to add glue on the right side, the outside right of our petal. Oops. My glue stand. I apologize. Let's make sure green. Oh my gosh, that went flying. So you can see I add a little bit of a vertical line. So just pull them up and make sure they attach. Okay. And now we're going to do exactly the same. We're going to add a little bit of a line. A line of glue, that is. Attach. Okay. Always on the right of the petal, outside right. Doesn't have to be a lot. Lift it up and make sure it attaches. And again, outside right. So just to make sure we have our position. And attach. Okay, take your next one. Thread your petal. To the underside, you're going to add your glue. Now we're going to thread our petal, so it's going to go in between. Okay. All right, so now we're going to do that exact same technique where we're going to attach the second layer around the first. So it won't be as tight as our first layer. But you can see where it's going to attach. So you're going to add a little bit of glue to the outer right side of your petal. Okay, so just pull it up and attach. Okay. and exactly on the outside right. Pull up. So it's not attached to layer 1, we're just attaching to our outer layer. Okay, pull them up, make sure they're attached, and then our last one, remember it goes on the outside right. This is a pretty color combination. Okay, and attach. So there should be space. If you want them more closed up, you certainly can do that. And if you want them more curled, and we forgot to poke our hole in layer 3. So pierce your hole, thread it onto your floral stem wire. We're going to add glue to the underside. So hold your glue gun and twirl. We're going to thread our petals. Making sure they fall in between the petals of layer 2. So I'm just going to make sure it's secure before I start gluing. And now you can see it may not go up as far, so now we're going to add just a little bit of glue. Outer right petal. So attach them, make sure they're secure. Take our next one. So it's not attaching to layer 2, we're just attaching the petals of each layer together, so they stand tall. Oh, she's so pretty. It still amazes me, friends, taking a piece of flat paper and turning it into a gorgeous flower. And then we're going to attach our last petal 3 and 4. So they'll be attached all the way around. Okay. Lastly, we attach our sepal. So again, you can roll your metal ball stylus. We're going to thread it onto our floral stem wire. And I'm just going to open it up a little. We're going to add our glue around the circle part and out each leaf. Now, Gorilla Glue dries super fast, so you do have to work fast, so I can't really talk during this part. Okay, so you can see, thread it all the way up. And we're just going to wrap it around and really secure your tulip. Now, if it dried too fast and you didn't get it secure, you can always add more glue. Believe me, I have to do it too. And you have your tulip already created. Now she's so beautiful. Our next step will be to add our leaves. So we do need some floral tape. So I'm just going to cut a piece off, stretch it to activate the glue. Try and match it as well as you can to your green paper. So once you wrap it around a few times, you can just slide it up. And then I like to hold with my right hand because I am right-handed. Pull at an angle and twist. Okay. Now I'm going to, with my same walnut stain, we're going to add a little bit of color to our stem so it's not as lime greeny. Trying to match my green paper. So that's a little trick. So just brush it on with your finger dabber. And it calmed down the green for sure. Then we're going to take another piece of tape, activate the glue. So now we can figure out where do we want our leaves. How high do you want them? All the way up or right touching the tip of the base of the tulip. So I'm just going to choose my spot here. Coming closer to the base of the leaf, we're just going to pinch it around, wrap it around a few times, and then at an angle, pull and twist. Okay, then I'm going to add my ink on top of that again to settle down that light bright green color here so it's not so bright. And then we do the same thing with our second leaf. Pull a piece of tape to activate it. I'm going to go down a little bit further so they're not exactly at the same height. Go close to near the base, it depends. Okay. Wrap it a few times and then start coming down at an angle. Okay, now we're just going to go over our glue again, our tape. Glue tape, oh my goodness. And there you have your traditional tulip. This one I think I'm going to add a little bit more tape. I'm just going to go up just a little bit and then come back down. And then we'll just add a little bit more ink. So again, if you're not happy with the placement, you can always adjust. And there you have your tulip, a traditional tulip. She is stunning. Depending on what color you want to use. Again, my original ones I used yellow and picked raspberry. But gorgeous at any in any color, so I can't wait to make some additional ones in other colors. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope I can inspire you to make a tulip today.